Good day and welcome to SEO Bricks Insight, where we talk about the latest news, information and analysis of what's really going on in Russia and the BRICS. Now, my name is Rod Mackenzie, and today I want to talk about gold and how some countries want their gold back from storage in the US. Now, Germany and Italy, two major G7 European countries, which store a significant proportion of their gold reserves in the United States, have been urged by people within the country to bring their bullion reserves back home. But is this possible? And what would be the consequences for US and the global economy if they repatriated their gold? Now, the Financial Times writes that to retrieve the funds are becoming more and more frequent amid Donald Trump's attacks on the US Federal Reserve and the increasing geopolitical turbulence taking place in the US and around the world. Now, Trump has previously called the Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell a fool and discussed his resignation, forced or otherwise. However, if this were to happen, a change in the Federal Reserve Chairman would probably reduce confidence in the US monetary policy and potentially have negative consequences. Now, the market value of European gold stored in the UK and the United States is more than $245 billion according to the FT. Now, the European Taxpayers Association is particularly concerned and has written to the German and Italian central banks and their finance ministries, asking them to reconsider their gold storage policies. Now, according to the World Gold Council, Germany and Italy hold the second and third largest gold reserves in the world after the United States, with 3,352 tonnes and 2,452 tonnes respectively. So in total, almost 6,000 tonnes of gold are stored in American vaults. Now, both Italy and Germany store more than a third of their gold reserves in the United States, and this order has been in place since the Second World War, when many countries sent their money and national artefacts to the United States for safekeeping, although obviously not then Germany. Now, before I continue, I would like to make an appeal. If you like and enjoy my videos, you can help me fund the channel and my website, scobricksinside.com, and contribute to its further development. You can do this by making a small donation, which you can do by clicking on the thanks button at the bottom right hand side of the video screen. Everybody who donates gets a personal thank you from me, and do keep the comments coming. Love to read them, love to respond to them. However, after the Second World War, it became a habit for many countries. Germany, having lost the war, was then afraid that the Soviet Union would invade Germany and steal its gold reserves. So that's quite ironic, given that the Europeans have just stolen Russian assets. Now, some countries, such as Belgium, didn't have a suitable place to store their gold reserves, and others, such as India, which had just gained independence from British colonial rule, felt they couldn't afford to build a suitable storage facilities. Now, some countries like Lebanon were afraid to keep their gold at home because of political instability. So for a variety of reasons, each country chose what they felt was the world's most secure storage facility at one time or another. Now, in the United States, the majority of the gold allegedly is stored in Fort Knox, which is a symbol of absolute security. Now, this carefully guarded facility was built in 1936, which was 3 years after President Franklin Roosevelt issued an executive order requiring all Americans to hand over their gold in the form of bars and coins in exchange for paper money. Now, according to data from 2023, the United States held approximately $429 billion in its own gold and $228 billion in gold from other countries. Now, Americans hold more than 40% of the gold from another 25 countries with the large reserves, according to Vladimir Lubetsky, who's an associate professor of economics at the Russian Presidential Academy. That said, however, in recent decades, some European countries have been discussing the need to repatriate their gold reserves. I mean, after all, the last audit of Fort Knox was allegedly conducted in 1974. Now, since then, the doors have not been opened publicly, and doubts have arisen that there's not all that's said to be there behind these doors, and are the bars real or not? Now, these questions have gone on unanswered for more than half a century, and conspiracy theories continue to speculate. Although a few months ago, Elon Musk said he was going to go there and open up for inspection, but he's since gone quiet on that subject. Now, Trump's policies have also added fuel to the fire. Open declaration of isolationism, a refusal to support Western allies, inconsistency, plus his outrageous statements, all coupled with the global increase in geopolitical tension, and that's forcing Europeans to consider whether it would be better to keep their gold reserves back in their own countries. Now, in the context of trade deglobalization and the increased risk of national assets being blocked after 2022, which is what happened with Russian assets, the desire of states to strengthen their financial sovereignty is understandable. However, the desire may diverge from what's actually going to happen, according to Alexander Bakhtin, who's an investment strategist at Garda Capital. He said, firstly, transporting gold across the ocean by boat is unsafe and expensive, and it requires several serious procedural approvals. In addition, exporting gold from New York, one of the world's largest gold trading hubs, will technically complicate potential transactions with sovereign gold assets and make them more difficult to carry out, said Elena Voronokova, who's a professor of public and municipal finance at the Russian University of Economics. Of course, we must not forget the political aspect too. I mean, the Western financial system is already going through turbulent times, and a large scale of export of gold or by ship or plane would suggest that the world is losing confidence in the Western economic system and the values of the global financial order. Therefore, analysts doubt that Germany and Italy will be able to simply take their gold as they want it from the United States, because a large amount of political pressure is bound to be exerted on these countries, because Americans are clearly not going to put up with anybody attempting to undermine confidence in their economy, no matter how justified it is. I know that Trump and his crew will do everything possible to prevent European countries from taking their reserves back, according to Maxim Cherkov, who's a professor of economic policy at the Russian State University of Management. Plus, of course, Germany and Italy hold more than half of their gold reserves at home, enabling them to maintain their financial sovereignty despite the fact that, a third of their gold's already still in the States. So they're not going to be left penniless. Their gold is still there, allegedly, or its value is still there. So despite all the twists and turns, the US remains the leading world financial power due to the dollar's supremacy as a fiat currency, and its ally, the EU, although it does tend to attack the euro quite regularly. So no matter how far Trump goes along the rails of isolation, I mean, I don't see them breaking totally with Europe. I mean, Trump will push and prod, etc. I mean, if they did, the impact on gold prices and the dollar with gold would be limited, because the gold and exchange instruments, I mean, dollar and gold, are shaped by factors as the protective function in the context of international escalation, global inflation trends, and monetary cycles of leading central banks. I mean, Badkin believes that a change in the location of the precious metal itself doesn't actually influence the gold price. I mean, of course, the US has for long been considered the safest place to store foreign gold, but that's only if you're friendly or subservient to the US. I mean, there are historical, geographic and political economic reasons for its friends to store their gold there. I mean, however, the fact that gold from Russia and other assets have been stolen and not returned has made investors in countries like Saudi Arabia, the Emirates, etc., more distrustful of investing in certain Western countries in case their assets were frozen or stolen. I mean, if gold repatriation does happen, it will become clear to everyone in the West that the West is not actually united, and the contradictions between the countries are going to be multiplied by distrust and are going stronger. So it's goodbye to the image of the US being a quiet, harbour in a raging sea of political and economic passions. Where will this lead? Well, you can only guess, but it'll probably be tears before bedtime. Anyway, thank you for watching. Please like, share and subscribe. And if you enjoy the videos, want to make a donation, click on the screen. Thank you.